Well, what if this turns out to be Jonas Salk and he invents the polio vaccine? Or this turns out to be someone who invents a cure for Ebola? It's possible. Have you figured out yet the smartest people aren't the best teachers? They know the most, but they're not necessarily the best teachers. So this is our instinct here, is to reward this. Meritocracy is called moral deserts, to reward people for their effort. But see, this school says, well, we need a little bit of room here because these people might well be the geniuses in the group, just not tested at this level, but they might produce cures for Ebola and polio and anything else that comes along. Is that the AC? Do we have AC in here? We have AC in here, don't we? Or is that my hearing aids going wrong? No, we don't know. It sounds like that, doesn't it? Okay. So we only have 20 seats. We have 35 people. How do we decide who's going to get in if they all hit the standard? Let's say they're all 4.0s. Who fits in? This brings us to diversity. Let's say 17% of the population is African American. I'm pulling these numbers out of the air. 7% is Asian American. 37% is Hispanic or Latin American, and the rest of it is Caucasian. And they all have 4.0s. Who gets in? Diversity says one of the roles of a college is to reflect the community that it lives in. For example, I think I asked you when we did this traditional sexual morality, how many women would like a female gynecologist? Well, in the day we didn't have women who were doctors. It was all male. We diversified. We reflected the population. Women wanted. If we had, do you want an Asian American gynecologist? Do you want an African American gynecologist? There are preferences people have. And if the people who qualify can meet those preferences, why shouldn't we allow for diversity to meet those preferences? Since we're all, let's just assume, 4.0. What's the problem with that way of thinking? Well, the problem with that way of thinking is 15 people aren't going to get in. And as long as you get in, that works for you. But what if it doesn't work for you because you don't get in? You're qualified. How many of you know life is not fair? There's not a seat for everybody at the table. Right now, you graduate and you go to get a job, and the first thing they're going to ask is, well, what kind of experience do you have? None. That's why I'm here. To apply what I learned, to have experience. Oh, well, see, I got someone here with 30 years of experience, and they'll work for the same $8 an hour you will. That's not fair. Affirmative action, then, is simply an attempt to level the playing field to make opportunity. Remember, we said freedom, opportunity to make wealth. We open the door to opportunity. Freedom opens the door to opportunity. Now, you have to qualify. If you don't qualify, you don't have a leg to stand on. Sorry about that. How many of you want the best surgeons? I want the best mechanic. I shop around. You know? When I had LASIK surgery done, I wanted the best eye surgeon. I didn't want to just go to someone who's, you know, I mean, you only get 2 of them. But just because you score high doesn't necessarily mean you're the best. So our criteria for affirmative action needs to be examined, and we need to make a decision. Should it be just based on academic merit? Should it reflect the community that we live in? Given that everybody qualifies, at least on paper. You realize qualifications are paper. When you get your grade and you get your degree and you go to get a job, your boss is unimpressed with that piece of paper. Your boss is going to want to see you do what that paper says you can do. And if you can't do what that paper says you're going to do, your boss is going to go, next, next, until someone shows up who can do what that paper says you can do. They want production. They're not giving you a job to give you money. They're giving you money to make them more money. They want to see production. So this person may produce more over a lifetime than this person. There's nothing wrong with academic criteria. Affirmative action and diversity say we need to broaden the playing field. We need to level it out so that more people have opportunity. And it always includes the fact that some people are not going to be included. Not because you don't merit it, not because you don't qualify. We just don't have enough room at the table for you. So affirmative action tries to make that better, but it never makes it right, because if you don't get a seat at the table, you're excluded. Not because you don't qualify. There's no room at the table for you. There's only 880 pro basketball players, male basketball players, and half of them are on the practice squad. Sorry about that. You're never going to make big money, but you'll make a better living than you would if you're flipping hamburgers. And trust me, ball players can flip hamburgers, but they're talented, and so we reward them. And they didn't even do anything for that skill. Well, that's not true. They probably honed it, but they're born naturally gifted. Someone with 180 IQ is going to have different access to opportunity than someone with a 70 IQ. You can't fight that. So any questions about that? Okay. On your quiz, you're going to see a case, a Supreme Court case that argues about affirmative action. It's about a lady from California who's now living in Austin, Texas. Her name is Cheryl Hopwood, so you need to remember that name. This is Dr. Michael Sandel. He's probably the most preeminent political philosopher we have. About 3 semesters from now, if I have a course called Philosophy of Politics and Justice, that's based off of some of his lectures. Very, very good at what he says. This is a 5-minute video that I want to share with you. He's going to explain Cheryl Hopwood. On Wednesday, we'll go through it in detail.
Today, we're going to explore that question of moral desert and its relation to distributive justice, not in connection with income and wealth, but in its connection with opportunities, with hiring decisions and admission standards. And so we turn to the case of affirmative action. You read about the case of Cheryl Hopwood. She applied for admission to the University of Texas Law School. Cheryl Hopwood had worked her way through high school. She didn't come from an affluent family. She put herself through community college and California State University at Sacramento. She achieved a 3.8 grade point average there. Later moved to Texas, became a resident. Took the law school admissions test, did pretty well on that, and she applied to the University of Texas Law School. She was turned down. She was turned down at a time when the University of Texas was using an affirmative action admissions policy. A policy that took into account race and ethnic background. The University of Texas said 40% of the population of Texas is made up of African Americans and Mexican Americans. It's important that we, as a law school, have a diverse student body. And so we are going to take into account not only grades and test scores, but also the demographic makeup of our class, including its race and ethnic profile. The result, and this is what Hopwood complained about, the result of that policy is that some applicants to the University of Texas Law School with a lower academic index, which includes grades and test scores, than hers, were admitted, and she was turned down. She said, she argued, I'm just being turned down because I'm white. If I were a member of a minority group, with my grades and test scores, I would have been admitted. And the statistics, the admissions statistics that came out in the trial confirmed that African American and Mexican American applicants that year who had her grades and test scores were admitted. It went to federal court. Now, put aside the law, let's consider it from the standpoint of justice and morality. Is it fair or is it unfair? Does Cheryl Hopwood have a case, a legitimate complaint? Were her rights violated by the admissions policy of the law school?
Does she have a case? What's your case?
She has the same grades as the other people.
Say what now?
She has the same grades as the other people, but she didn't get admitted.
Right. Should they be excluded so she could be included? Well, they're all on the same playing field. They all have the same grades. I'm not arguing against it. I'm just saying, they're all equal, so one wants to be included. There's no room, which means someone else gets excluded. In this case, it happened to be based on ethnicity and race. But then she was excluded based on ethnicity and race. She said her issue is she's white. She didn't ask to be born white. She's born white. So she's being excluded because she's not of the right ethnic background.
You literally just said what I was about to say about.
Say again?
You literally just said what I was about to say about race.
Oh, cool.
I think they violated the 14th Amendment.
You think it's what?
The 14th Amendment.
The 14th Amendment.
Equality.
Equality. But there's not enough room at the table. She was equal to them. There's not enough room. If she goes, someone else gets excluded. What about their equality?
In the video, it said that someone below her test score is not getting a profile.
Right. Some were here, like Dr. King, or like Jonas Salk. So what you're saying is, and I'm not arguing against it, if this is the criteria, then she was wronged. But the college made this and this the criteria. The question is, does the school have any right to make this part of their criteria, or should it only be academic excellence?
I feel like if they contribute race and ethnicity, it's a form of discrimination.
Yeah, when you apply, they're going to not only ask, when you apply to the four-year school or university grad, they're not going to only ask what your academia is. I mean, you have to qualify academically. They're going to want to know what else did you do. Were you in student government? Did you do public service? Did you do volunteer work? They want to know what kind of character they're getting, not just what kind of academic achievement. They want to know what the character is about the person.
The character's okay. I mean, everyone has an opportunity to join student council. Everyone has an opportunity for that. No one gets to choose their race. So they shouldn't choose someone based on their race.
Okay. Let me ask you a question. Should people who serve in the military get a benefit? Why?
Because I did something, a lot of them volunteered to do something that, like, let's say, Jesse or I would not want to do. Would put their life on the line to make sure we can do what we do every day.
But I didn't volunteer. I had a fellow in class last hour, he didn't volunteer. There's a whole bunch of us out there never volunteered. But I can check the box. Every time I apply for a job, go to school, were you a vet? Check the box. Did you serve during wartime? Check a box. Were you disabled or wounded? No, I can't. Check the box. Phew. Why should I be given privilege just because I... Say what?
Because you did it.
Well, I did it. I was forced to do it. I had no choice. Was that go to jail or go to Canada, eh? Look up the family. What about the ones who do volunteer? Why should they get a benefit?
They get a benefit for volunteering. You get a benefit for being forced to, because you did something that technically is against your will.
Right.
So they, at least they're benefiting you. They're giving something in return. Since we forced you to do it, I'm going to give you the benefits.
Okay. What if your parents go to med school, Harvard Medical School, and you're going to ask that any of your parents' alumni? When Corey, my young, I always call him my baby. I won't tell you how old he is, but he's not a baby. And anyway, when he graduated college, he didn't know what he was going to do. I planned on him coming